Hi traders, Namaskar. Well, the volatility is back in the market and the days of whipsaws have begun. Today the Nifty was relatively much weaker than that of the Bank Nifty, but big question mark is which way are we heading towards the expiry later this week. To answer all these questions, to have some clarity, let's take a deeper dive into the price action of today's trade and try and figure out what are the levels which can lead to a breakout on the upside or a disappointing breakdown towards further lows. Alright, so here I am using today the Nifty cash market chart. Every day I use the near month futures, but for some odd reason TradingView is not being able to reflect us the closing price correctly of the near month futures, both for the Nifty and Bank Nifty. The other sectoral indices seems to be fine, so some issue may be with the FNO data at TradingView's end. So I will show you the cash market chart, and on a day-to-day basis, excuse me, a lower high and a lower low. We had 2 days of higher highs and higher lows, and this is the first sign that the index has slipped towards a lower high, lower low. Nifty was down 89 points, down almost 0.5%. Let's take a look at the 75-minute time frame of Nifty and try and understand what are we dealing with. Now, number one, the index is clearly stuck in this wide range. Before that, the index was in a downtrend, so maybe the index is trying to form a base, very strong supports down here. Okay, that's one. Next, the index did manage to give us a nice short-term bounce back. Okay, let's go back a little bit more. The index did manage to give us a nice short-term bounce back last week, which was dissipated literally within a day's time. And then we have another bounce back, which so far so good is holding well. I think yesterday I was sharing my views that this move down, this recent move down, we should look at it as a sign of a consolidation post this bounce back. So the bias, what this means is the bias we should maintain on the upside as of now. Though I would use the word vulnerable, I think that the underlying trend of the market, which is essentially no trend in the 75-minute time frame, but the fact that it is trying to reverse the underlying short-term trend on the upside is definitely vulnerable. And clearly some levels that come up, let's talk about from an intraday perspective, is this high. And this is close to 16,270 in the cash market. Remember, I'm dealing with cash market rates today. So this needs to be taken out from an intraday perspective, and of course above that is that 16,400, 16,420 on the cash market. So unless these two levels are taken out, number one, number two, we can't expect some serious bullishness to come back to the system. On the downside, well, on the downside, there is no rocket science that these are the strong supports. This is the zone. But we should not also forget that the index bounced back with a gap up. And gaps at times have this habit, nature, to cause supports and resistances. So this level over here, we can take a closer look. It is in the range of around 15,850 to close to that psychological 16K mark. That stays as the short-term support. So number one, 16K support for the Nifty, 16,250, 270 as an intraday breakout level on the upside, and for some serious trend reversal and hope of follow through upside, 16,420. Now, to make sense of this strategically, you should only look to go bullish above 16,270. Your bullishness, if it extends further towards 16,420 and above, then you can be complacently bullish. You should be ideally more aggressively on the bullish side. And all this discussion is being taken care with the 75-minute time frame in mind. So for short-term trading, positional trading, for just 1 to 3 days and intraday trades. If we take a look at a higher time frame, which is the daily, the trend is very well established on the downside, and any kind of move close to that 16,400, 450 will mean a retest of this gap down. And over there, from a positional point of view, a holding period of couple of weeks, one can look to initiate some shorts. So depending on what time frame you trade, you create your views depending on the levels. That's Nifty. Now let's come to BankNifty. Now BankNifty cash market chart is far better than that of the Nifty. The index stayed within a range today. Not exactly an inside bar, is it? 34,117, 34,115. So just marginally going below yesterday's low, but almost like an inside bar. And it was full of whipsaws. I personally had a couple of whipsaws in the morning and later about in the afternoon. And when a day goes like this, when you're hit back to back, all that you can do is work hard to bring a smile on your face. And I do not watch too much movies nowadays, but I heard some great reviews about the movie RRR, and I happened to stumble upon a song from this movie RRR, and one particular moment of that song I could relate really strongly with that particular moment in that song. I generally do not do this fun stuff with my videos, but today, because I was particularly hit in 2 trades back to back, allow me to make these videos a little bit, get a little bit humor in this conversation. Yes, and that's exactly how I felt the first time. But there was more for me. To make you understand this particular volatility that was there in the trade, I will take you to the 15-minute chart. This is the 15-minute chart of BankNifty, and this was the starting bar and this was the finishing bar. In this entire trade, the 2 bars which actually created a lot of definition was these 2 bars. This was the opening bar, which showed a really good strength, a bounce back, then followed through on the downside, showing that the possibility of an extension of this downside. This is where the whipsaw number 1 happened. And then later on, the bounce back on the upside was looking really encouraging, which led to a pretty sharp move of 100-150 points from my entry point. And then all of a sudden this happened. Well, at the end, towards the close, we also did manage to see some pretty decent amount of intraday volatility or choppiness, which clearly reflects, if you take a look at the granular level, the movement of price was very difficult. If you're a BankNifty trader like I am, you probably wouldn't have enjoyed the kind of choppiness the index threw at us. So a couple of whipsaws just to make you feel that it's time to buckle up and try and recover them as soon as possible. Views from the BankNifty is relatively better. The underlying trend, this is a 75-minute time frame. Over here we see the same range, we see the similar kind of supports and the resistances and the gap ups, but this index is relatively better off than that of the Nifty. And levels, number 1 very clearly is 34,600 from an intraday perspective tomorrow. That's where you go bullish, and then 34,800. If you have been following my videos, if you remember that yesterday I said that I consider this to be a decoy bar, and if IFF within the next 2 days prices takes this high close to 34,900, then we will definitely have a rally. There's no second thoughts about it. Now today it didn't happen. In fact, it stayed a little on the on the downside. So I'm going to give it one more day's time to show the strength and take out 34,900, or else I think we will angle down or we would angle further on the downside. So going back to the 75-minute time frame, 34,600 is the bare minimum for an intraday breakout, and close to that 34,100, 34,050. Now please remember, I'm dealing with cash market rates today. 34,050, 34,100 are the support. So this is essentially a short-term range which the index has created in today's trade, and we hope and expect that either of these levels, when the index takes out, it gives us some directional clarity, and then we will be able to trade much more conveniently and hopefully not get chopped out the way we got today, especially the way I got in the trade. So that's about the Nifty Bank Nifty. I hope that we get a breakout from the Bank Nifty, especially on the upside, because the daily chart of the index is showing signs of consolidation, and if a close below 34,100, 34,050 does not come, then the bullishness sustains. On the contrary, if the index breaks and closes below 34,050, then I think that we should all, angle further on the downside. Do let me know how was your trade and your thoughts about the immediate movement from the market. Thank you. Take care of yourselves. Trade well and trade wise.